From the Massachusetts Broadcasters Station of the Year, this is Western Mass News at 6 p.m.
Coming up, a woman shot in her own house and 2 suspects now in custody. We'll have the latest on this developing situation out of Orange.
Plus, more stimulus money could be headed to Americans very soon. Western Mass News is getting answers from a financial expert on the best way to use that money.
It's been 2 weeks since the MLK Church was severely damaged. I'm Priscilla Verde with details on where the investigation stands now.
We begin tonight with a first warning weather alert as we're expecting a good bit of rain as well as some snow overnight. Welcome to Western Mass News at 6, everyone. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Jordyn Jagalinzer. It was a dreary kind of day today, and now we're gearing up for some significant rain. For the latest on what we can expect, let's check in with meteorologist Jana Brown. And Jana, maybe even some snow.
Yeah, definitely, guys. The snow, I think, is the biggest issue for the higher elevations. But for the Pioneer Valley, we're only going to be dealing with rain and maybe some gusty wind as well. So the alert is for the winter weather advisories that are up for the hill towns of Franklin and Hampshire counties and all of Berkshire County, starting at 10 p.m. tonight and going out through early tomorrow morning. So what are we talking about here as far as the alert goes? High terrain snow of 2 to 4 inches, especially above 1,000 feet. But once you get above 1,500 feet, some isolated locations could get as much as 5 or 6 inches. And that will definitely throw a wrench in any kind of traveling overnight through tomorrow morning, which is why we have the alert up and why we're seeing those advisories. Rain for the valley, heavy at times, but no flooding expected, and gusty wind, but not damaging wind expected. So on the impact scale, I would definitely put this on the lower end. This is not a major system for us. So we're watching that precip. It's going to be coming in closer to midnight tonight. So right now things are dry. We're 39 degrees with a nice easterly breeze. So it's feeling just a little bit cooler, but no travel concerns for the next few hours. Temperatures are above freezing just about everywhere, even in the higher elevations. We will eventually be dropping down toward the middle 30s as the wet weather gets started. The hill towns will be dropping into the lower 30s, but that's about as cold as we get. The precip again is going to get started close to midnight, and it will continue heavy at times overnight for both the valley and the hills. Now we'll take a look at how the rest of your weekend is looking in just a couple of minutes. Back to you.
Jana, thanks for that. We are staying on top as well of that breaking news out of Orange, where one woman was found shot inside of a house. New information at this hour. Police tell us 2 people have been arrested following that morning shooting.
Western Mass News reporter Leon Purvis is live for us in Orange after speaking with a neighbor from the crime scene area. Leon?
Jordyn, Chris, the Orange Police Chief now tells me that 2 people are in custody, and one of them are the one that lived inside the home on Lewis Street. Now, this, of course, was the same area where the gunshot victim was discovered by police around 9:30 this morning in that same home. This drew a heavy police presence with both Orange officers as well as state police. This was the scene where Western Mass News crews first arrived. This is it right here when we arrived. The search for a suspect brought police to the town of Westminster, about 30 minutes from here in Worcester County. This video shows police taking a man into custody after he barricaded himself in a motel on East Main Street. State police tell us this person is connected to the shooting in Orange. Western Mass News spoke with a neighbor in Orange who learned about the situation through text messages while at work.
A little uneasy, shocking, like, is it safe to come home? Is it going to be guarded or banned off? I received some texts from at work from, people that know I live near this street.
Now, Orange police tell me that there is no danger to anyone in the area. This is an isolated incident, and it's a very active investigation. So stick with Western Mass News, both on air and online, for the very latest. Live in Orange, Leon Purvis, Western Mass News.
Leon, thanks for that live report. Now to developing news out of Washington, where federal prosecutors outlined the intent of some rioters who participated in the storming of Capitol Hill.
In a new court filing, prosecutors claim that some of the members of that mob intended to capture and assassinate elected officials. As the investigation into the riot continues, a new security bulletin notes actors from Russia, Iran, and China are already fanning the flames to further their policy interests. In the days before the inauguration, thousands of National Guard troops patrol the streets of Washington, D.C., while states prepare for the potential of more violence.
We are prepared. We cannot allow a recurrence of the chaos and illegal activity that the United States and the world witnessed last week.
Last week's violence was dangerously close to Vice President Mike Pence. According to the Washington Post, the rioters were only seconds away from potentially seeing the vice president.
President-elect Joe Biden rolling out his plan for the next round of stimulus checks.
This, as today marks the deadline to receive the second round of the latest $600 checks. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo joins us live with more from a local financial planner on the best way to use the money.
Well, the second round of stimulus checks went out faster than the first, but if you haven't received your second stimulus check by today, the IRS says you'll have to file for it on your taxes as a credit. Now, with the Biden administration, there's now the possibility for a third round of stimulus checks to the tune of $1,400. President-elect Joe Biden is now proposing $1,400 additional dollars to Americans making under a certain income threshold in the form of a third round of stimulus checks. Local financial planner Richard Pelletier says that legislation will likely take a while to follow the $600 second round.
I don't think that check will be in the mailbox next week.
But for those who are trying to make the most of their checks and plan their finances, Pelletier offers this advice.
The general rule of thumb is if you've got $1,400 and you weren't expecting it, where is it going to do the greatest bit of good? And the answer is where you're paying the highest rate of interest rates. It's not on your mortgage at 2 or 3%, it's on those credit cards.
The COVID-19 shutdowns have also caused some small business owners to pour their own savings into their businesses to keep them afloat. But Pelletier says the CARES Act's changes to the Paycheck Protection Program offer better terms to business owners who apply.
That's a triple header win-win-win proposition.
Businesses with 300 employees or fewer will be allowed to get a second draw of loans. Also, it's now easier to get a partial loan forgiveness. The legislation still requires borrowers to use 60% of their loan on payroll expenses in order to get full forgiveness. But Pelletier says the law includes more good news.
It could be forgiven under proper circumstances. It's not a taxable event, and you get to deduct the expenses in addition to all that. It's incredible.
For most applicants, the PPP funds will be available on January 19th. Live in Springfield, Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Taking a look now at the latest coronavirus numbers in the state over the past 2 weeks. The Mass Department of Public Health reporting more than 5,000 new cases today. So that brings our total number of confirmed cases in the Bay State to a little more than 438,000. Over 93,000 of those are believed to currently be active. The state also reporting 75 more deaths. The statewide death toll now stands at 13,231. Now, for more coverage on the coronavirus emergency as it continues to develop, just log on to our free Western Mass News streaming app.
And new at 6, investigators say chimney failure in a wood-burning furnace caused Wednesday's fatal fire in Sheffield. The Berkshire DA's office identifying the victims as 75-year-old James Boltran and 66-year-old Doreen Boltram. The Sheffield Fire Department telling Western Mass News the fire started in the log-style cabin home and spread to nearly combustible material. Fire Chief David Ulrich says that sadly there were no signs the home had any working smoke alarms. The State Fire Marshal Peter Ostrowski says this was the first fatal fire of 2021 and is urging everyone to have their chimneys checked before we head into the coldest part of the year.
Now to a follow-up on the fire that destroyed the Martin Luther King Jr. Presbyterian Church in Springfield more than 2 weeks ago. Ahead of the MLK holiday, community members are speaking out and they're wondering when they'll know more about what happened.
Western Mass News reporter Briseida Landaverde has the very latest.
Like to know what the real story is.
Ron Johnson, the president and CEO of the MLK Junior Family Services, tells Western Mass News the community wants answers.
We've been anxious, to find out it's arson, who may have done it, whether there was some malice of intent. Clearly, if it's arson, it would be malice of intent.
BJ Calvi, the Springfield Fire Commissioner, tells us they have a person of interest and the investigation is moving into the next steps.
That is with the U.S. Attorney right now. They're looking at it. They're looking at a lot of different factors and looking at the charges that will be brought in the next step.
Bishop Talbert Swan, the president of the NAACP, says he is pleased with all the efforts being made to assist the church, but fears for the future.
My overarching concern, though, is the lingering effects of racial hatred that cause such heinous acts like the burning down of black churches to continue.
He hopes to one day no longer hold conversations regarding the polarization in America. For now, reporting in Springfield, Briseda Landaverde for Western Mass News.
Briseda, thank you. Governor Charlie Baker signing a new bill into law today to ensure safe patient access to emergency care. The act is named in memory of Laura Levi, who died in 2016. Authorities say she died due to an asthma attack outside of an area hospital when she was unable to locate an accessible entrance to the emergency room. Governor Baker was joined by Laura's family and said that her story was one that needed to be shared.
We don't do a lot of signing ceremonies in the midst of COVID for a lot of really good reasons. It's hard to put a big group in a room. It's difficult to limit the people who get to come. It's challenging with respect to all the issues that are associated with gatherings generally. But the Lieutenant Governor and I, in this particular case, really wanted to make an exception.
The new law will implement minimum criteria and standards to ensure safe, timely, and accessible patient access to the entrances of Massachusetts hospital emergency departments.
One local business is stepping in to help restaurants in need amid the pandemic. I'm Lexi Oliver, and just ahead, I'll tell you how you can help while saving some money.
Plus, what does the future of high school football look like in the pandemic? I'm Kayla Burton. Coming up, I'm getting answers from the state on what teams can expect.
And some heavy rain, heavy snow, and gusty wind is on tap to start off the weekend. We'll take a look at your first morning forecast right after the break.